we must each meet what we put out in consciousness. So the city itself has been putting out violence, it's been putting out greed and jealousy and fear, and the story is just making visible. We meet what we put out. So we can imagine cosmic law in this way. If I go to a canyon and I yell into that canyon, "Ollie, ollie, oxen free," the canyon is gonna give me back, "Ollie, ollie, oxen free." No judgment in that. It's just giving me what I put out. Or if I go into that canyon and I say, "You suck," the canyon is gonna give me back, "You suck." No judgment at all. And so justice from the perspective of cosmic law works the same way. Whatever we're putting out, we're getting back, and there's absolutely no judgment in that. And so that's what the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is making visible to us. It's also making visible to us that those energy patterns that can create the unsteady mind, those patterns must be burned in what the yogis call the fire of transformation. And so that's what happens to that city. And through that process, all of it is decimated. They say it's sort of like flattened in the way that, Swami, I heard you describe this years ago, and it just stuck with me, how samskaras in the brain are like grooves in ice. And if you've ever been ice skating, they have a Zamboni, I think it's called, that comes across the ice and like smooth those grooves. And so the fire of transformations work in the exact same way. It helps to heal those patterns, those samskaras that lead to the unsteady mind within us. Amen. Good morning. Good morning, Swami. And welcome everybody to our dialogue today. The topic is, how does a yogi approach justice and mercy? And our first question is, what is justice from a yogic perspective? So I'll start. So when we talk about justice, for most humans, we're talking about fairness and equity, and it's often applied to the administration of law. The thing about justice from a human perspective is that it is beholden to the quality of mind of the society or the people who are creating and implementing it. So we can look at the word quality of mind. The Buddha says that there are two types of mind, the disciplined and the undisciplined, or the trained and the untrained mind. And I have a quote actually from the Dhammapada that I want to reference relating to the qualities of mind. So in the Dhammapada, it says, "They are not wise whose thoughts are not steady and minds not serene, who do not know Dharma, the law of life. They are wise whose thoughts are steady and minds serene, unaffected by good and bad. They are awake and free from fear." So the undisciplined mind is the mind that is not steady, that is not living in the consciousness of Dharma. And the steady mind, or the trained mind, is the mind that is serene, unaffected by good and bad, so says the Dhammapada. But the untrained mind is often the one that's creating the human laws. And so there is justice that goes beyond even that, and that is universal law. That is Dharma, that is unchanging, that is the consciousness of love and grace and purity and open-heartedness and just like effervescence that exists within each of us. And that law is meted out without any judgment at all. And so sometimes people who live from Dharma, who live cosmic law, find themselves outside of human law. Look at our friend Jesus. Look at Martin Luther King. And so human law, again, is subject to the winds of change, is subject to the unsteady mind. We can look at our infamous city in the Old Testament of Sodom and Gomorrah as an example of human justice in God's justice of Dharma. So the city itself is sort of representing what happens when we live in the consciousness of unskillfulness, of the mind that is not steady. And it's also making visible that we must each meet what we put out in consciousness. So the city itself has been putting out violence, it's been putting out greed and jealousy and fear. And the story is just making visible. We meet what we put out. So we can imagine cosmic law in this way. If I go to a canyon and I yell into that canyon, "Ollie, ollie, oxen free," the canyon is gonna give me back, "Ollie, ollie, oxen free." No judgment in that. It's just giving me what I put out. Or if I go into that canyon and I say, "You suck," the canyon is gonna give me back, "You suck." No judgment at all. And so justice from the perspective of cosmic law works the same way. Whatever we're putting out, we're getting back, and there's absolutely no judgment in that. And so that's what the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is making visible to us. It's also making visible to us that those energy patterns that can create the unsteady mind, those patterns must be burned in what the yogis call the fire of transformation. And so that's what happens to that city. And through that process, all of it is decimated. They say it's sort of like flattened in the way that, Swami, I heard you describe this years ago, and it just stuck with me, how samskaras in the brain are like grooves in ice. And if you've ever been ice skating, they have a Zamboni, I think it's called, that comes across the ice and like smooth those grooves. And so the fire of transformations work in the exact same way. It helps to heal those patterns, those samskaras that lead to the unsteady mind within us. And so that is one way that we can look at the story of Samson and, Sodom and Gomorrah is helping us to get clear about the human definition of justice and the universal unchanging definition of justice.
I love what you said. So just to echo what Acharya Kashi said, and maybe use slightly different words. Welcome. I'm Swami Nityananda. If you are enjoying this talk, please like, share, and subscribe. Please also subscribe to our free newsletter on Substack. It's available at the link immediately below this video. Thank you for being the light that you are. If I aspire to be a yogi, then what I am doing is opening my heart to live ever more fully justice and mercy. And the two go hand in hand. And so if I'm in contact with the energy of reality, the energy of love, the energy of oneness, the energy of connectedness, like I was looking at the little links on the chain. So last week we made a chain of heartfelt prayers and intentions. We're all connected. And we gain strength through our awareness of that connection. And it's just so beautiful. Like there's just so much love and connection made visible in that chain. But for everyone on the planet, we're all connected. And so a yogi lives in the realization of that. And so when I have that awareness, then I know that I cannot possibly help another without also, in the long run, having the energy of helpfulness circulate back to me. And I cannot possibly harm another without, in the long run, having the energy of harmfulness circulate back to me. So I will behave with great love, great respect, great awareness, great goodwill, great joy, knowing the interconnectedness of all of this. And so just to share a couple of teachings from the Bhagavad Gita, this is from chapter 10, verse 38. Among righteous rulers, I am justice. Among those who aspire to attain success, I am the law. And so this is basically saying that the divine is the source of justice. So anywhere that you see justice in time and space, the divine is there in that energy of justice. And the divine is also the source of success. And so if I want success in time and space, then I will honor and respect the laws of energy, which are, as I said, that I'm interconnected with everyone. If I behave in loving ways, that energy circulates back to me. If I behave in less than loving ways, that energy also circulates back to me. And so it's just knowing and trusting the laws of energy. And then we've been meditating on being embodied masters, working toward that, the way that Swami Shankarananda embodied that. And so that's just an invitation for each of us may I master my thoughts? May I master my feelings in relation to justice, in relation to mercy? And I think Acharya Kashi didn't use quite this phrasing, but was saying the same thing. For a human who works on behalf of justice in time and space, I'm just aware, because I worked with young people in this area for 27 years, it can seem overwhelming. On a human level, if you become aware of human injustice, it can seem overwhelming. So be aware of a couple things. The work is never done, never. It's longer than the span of a single lifetime, and it really matters that you do the work that you can in your lifetime. So, and the work that you can do is with your talents, your skill set, your body, your heart, your mind, your awareness. And so to give yourself kind of like that awareness that this is like, while you're in the body, you hold that torch, you hold that light, and you do the work, but you're gonna be passing it on to other people. So it's not that you're gonna get to the end of your life and say, well, gosh, we figured that all out. We're done with that justice thing. So, and it's really important that each of us does what we do with love, with joy, with awareness. Like right now, each of us gets to carry that torch and we get to share it and pass it on as much as we possibly can.
Swami, hearing you share makes me think of the quote from, which I'll paraphrase, from MLK: the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice. It's sort of like built into the framework, and our job is to just love and to live out the justice, because it's already in that direction. Okay, next question. And Swami, you can start. What is mercy from a yogic perspective?
So this is such an interesting question. I'm going to share a quotation from the Buddha in the Dhammapada. He's basically saying, even if ruthlessness is directed toward us, respond with mercy. And here's why. Here's the teaching. If you do not give out harsh notes like a broken gong when struck with the hammer of ruthlessness, and thus do not waste your power in rudeness of word and thought, but rather utilize that power to remain unperturbed and calm, thereby you shall gain wisdom and peace, and you shall have no enemy. And so I would just like to point out a couple things right there. So he's saying there's no guarantee for any human you might experience ruthlessness. And he's just saying, let there be no self-judgment. If ruthlessness comes your way, I get to choose how do I respond. He's also talking about being an embodied master. And he says, do not give out harsh notes, even if you are struck with ruthlessness, right? And he says, you don't want to be like a broken gong. So from the perspective of contemporary teachings, he's talking about, I take responsibility for my vibration. I take responsibility for my frequency. I take responsibility for what do I want to create. Because I realize that what I create in my energy field, that is going to be ongoingly more important than this temporary experience of ruthlessness that is coming my way. I have an actual example of this from Ramana Maharshi, who demonstrated this, and also demonstrated what Jesus talks about, by the way, as well. So Ramana had a spiritual center in India, and he and some meditators were in the spiritual center in India, and some thieves in the middle of the night came and violently tried to enter the spiritual center. They were trying to break the windows to get in order to steal. And Ramana said, you can come in through the door. And they were in this energy of violence and aggression. They kept trying to break the windows. And he said, you can come in through the door. You can have whatever you want. And they were in this energy of violence and aggression. So they kept trying to break the windows. They beat the dog. They beat Ramana. They beat the other meditators. When they beat Ramana, this is what he said. Receiving a blow on the left thigh, he said, if you are not satisfied, you can strike the other leg also. And his students, I mean, you can imagine, they were not thrilled at seeing their teacher beaten. And so one of his students grabbed something at hand and was like, can I go after him? And this is what Ramana said. We should not give up our dharma. If you go and strike them, some may die, and that will be a matter for which the world will rightly blame not them, but us. They are only misguided men and are blinded by ignorance, but let us note what is right and stick to it. And so, like the Buddha, he's aware of what is right and what is less right. He has clarity, he has discernment. He also is completely fearless because he's aware that at the core of every being is nothing but pure light. And so if pure light is wearing the costume of these ignorant thieves at that particular moment, he's not threatened by it. Like, have you ever seen little kids wearing scary costumes at Halloween? No threat, right? No fear. He is seeing with divine eyes that these are humans who are wearing the equivalent of a Halloween costume right now. And they're identifying with the costume that they are wearing right now. He is completely fearless. And acting with mercy requires fearlessness. And so for every one of us to give ourselves the gift of looking past the costume that anyone is wearing. Some humans wear some really alarming costumes. Don't be afraid. Go deeper than any human costume and be in contact with this. It's the eyes of light that allow you to see the divine everywhere. It's the ears of light that allow you to hear the divine everywhere. It's the heart of light that allows you to love the divine everywhere. And your own heart will be letting you know if you're seeing with the eyes of light and hearing with the ears of light and loving with the heart of light, or if there's room to expand. And the moment that you expand, then you have awareness of the most important thing that I can do right now is govern my own responses. So Ramana could sort of observe they were in that energy of violence, and nothing that he said could disrupt that energy current. And so his response was just allow it to flow through the ashram. He was not afraid at all. He did let his students call the police. The police came out, they took statements. Ramana didn't volunteer anything, but when asked direct questions, he did tell them what had happened. And a few days later, some of the stolen property was recovered. The thieves were arrested and sentenced to terms of imprisonment. And so you could sort of see he had no enmity toward them. He was living also what the Buddha was talking about as well. And he knew the laws of energy take care of everyone and everything. And in this case also, the human laws were in play, and they also responded to this situation as well.
Thank you, Swami. I'm reminded of another thing that Ramana said to his students when this happened. He said to them, if you bite your tongue, will you knock out your teeth to sort of get back at the fact that your teeth bit your tongue? And so he's basically saying everything that Swami just highlighted about the interdependence of all of this, and that if we cause harm, we're causing harm to ourselves. There's no separation here. And I think to be in the awareness of that is mercy, and that's also grace. And in my meditation of mercy, it came to me that mercy is God's grace and God's compassion to bring things back into balance and into harmony. And so that means that there is nothing, or there is no one who is so far out of God's love, or who is so confused that they cannot gain clarity. Everything has within it the ability to come into balance, to come into harmony. And that is the extension of God's mercy and God's grace. And in fact, that mercy and love are actually interchangeable terms. They are the exact same energy. It's the energy of inner transformation, it's the energy of healing, and it's the energy of forward motion. When we look at the story again of Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot and his family are able to leave because they are living in the consciousness of oneness, in the consciousness of reality, of that which is true. And his family is told, just keep going, just keep going. And we're probably all familiar with the story of his wife, who decides to take a look back, and she turns into a pillar of salt. And what that is making visible to us is that as we access, in every moment, in every breath, the mercy that is available to us, the invitation is to keep going. Because what happens is, if we look back, we kind of get stuck in the old pattern again. Right? So salt is a preservative, and so the fact that she turns into a pillar of salt is just making visible to us that we can get stuck right where we are. It can reignite or re-bring forth those samskaras. And so again, when we're in that consciousness of mercy, just keep going. Do not turn back. Swami gave a whole meditation on it last Sunday, which was so beautiful. And that too is a gift. That too is God's mercy. And so with that mercy that's bestowed upon us, we have an opportunity to share that with others. And in fact, it is that mercy that helps to free others. Going back to the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, it was Abraham who was talking to God, and he said, Lord, if there are 50 people who are living in the consciousness of righteousness, will you please spare this city? And God says, yeah, sure. And Abraham's like, really? What about if there are 40 people? He says, yeah, sure. He says, what if there are 30 people? Yeah, sure. He gets them all the way down to 10. There are 10 people, I will spare this city. If there is one person, I will spare that person. And so even in the story, it's making visible that when we live in the consciousness of mercy, we make it possible to free other people, which is what is being connected with Abraham and the story of Lot and his family. So be gracious in your mercy and your compassion. And I'll tell you, it becomes easy when we're living in the consciousness of love. It's not even a thing when we're living in the consciousness of love, because that's really all that we can do. That's all that we can do. I'll tell you, I have many opportunities to do something else, but my choice is to choose love, because I'm responsible for my choice. If I don't choose love, I become what I say I condemn, or what I say I dislike. You become that very thing. And so what mercy allows us to do is to transcend, just like you're on a trampoline. It's like one of my favorite images, and you get some height and you just go right over it. It's beautiful, it's elegant, it's fun. And so that is the gift of mercy. Our next question, how do we put justice and mercy into action? I kind of started to answer that. Why don't you go, Swami?
I think we both did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could say that for anyone who would love to expand their awareness of justice and mercy, just ask. So as you meditate, before you sit down to meditate, if you just turn to the divine within you and say, I am open to deepening and expanding my awareness of justice. I am open to deepening and expanding my awareness of mercy. And I agree very much with what Acharya Kashi just said, maybe using slightly different words, but if I live in the consciousness of love, justice and mercy naturally arise from that. And so I open to live more deeply in the consciousness of love, and I open to allow justice and mercy to express more naturally through me. There's also, I mean, I would just say, like, I could use the example of, I heard a teacher talking, not a teacher where I formerly taught, but a teacher who taught somewhere else. And this was someone who said that she taught for 17 years and she always extended grace, even if she knew that sometimes she was extending grace where it was not deserved. Mm-hmm. She would rather extend grace where it was not deserved than not extend grace where it was deserved. And so if you just kind of keep that in mind, and then there's also, and I'm aware of this as well from having been a professor for 27 years, there's a way to be fair to everyone else in the class also. And so there's a way to balance mercy and giving extra opportunities and also still be fair to everyone else in the class as well. And so I will just say that whatever you are, like that's just an example of a domain that I used to occupy. We all occupy different domains. So justice and mercy are in our domain, in our household, in our friendships, in our relationships, in our neighborhood, wherever we are, justice and mercy are present. And if you are open to this energy of love, this energy of wisdom, this energy of awareness and compassion and insight and inspiration, justice and mercy will be sharing through you naturally. You'll have a continual sense of listening inwardly and a sense of what is most helpful, what is most fitting, what is most appropriate, what is most healing, what extends compassion and fairness and awareness to all in this very inclusive and respectful way. And I also would just observe, humans understand. If you are in that energy of justice and mercy, they will know that. They will understand that you are being fair, that you are being inclusive, that you are being welcoming, that you are being respectful. And your interactions in whatever domain you are in will transform as well. And so it's a great gift that you give yourself, but it's also a gift that you give everyone else, just to be continually open. Also just emphasizing, I said this previously, but we're never done. And so just to continually open, like there's no limit to how much love can share through us. There's no limit to how fully we can live into the energy of justice. There's no limit to how much mercy can share through us. And each of us has our domain. And so just in the domain where I am, I open to allow justice and mercy to ever more fully and freely express through me. And let that be part of the practice of your lifetime. And it is an incredible gift for you and for everyone you encounter.
For those who commit injustice, do justice and mercy also extend to them? The answer is unequivocally yes, definitely. I was meditating on the story of the Buddha in Angulimala, which you guys have probably heard before. And he was a student of the Buddha. But before he was a student of the Buddha, he was not a good guy. He was a murderer. So the story goes that he murdered 99 people, and he wore a necklace with the fingers of the 99 people that he murdered. And he encountered the Buddha, and his intention was that the Buddha would be his 100th person that he murdered. But when he encountered the Buddha, he was so moved. His heart instantly opened, and he became a student of the Buddha. And he was a really good student. And after many, many years, the Buddha sent him out to share the teachings. And while he was out sharing the teachings, he would encounter the family members of the people that he had killed. And they disliked him. They would throw rocks at him. They would beat him. They would not listen to him. So he went back to the Buddha and he said, I'm really trying to share these teachings. But in the story, he has a gash on his forehead. He's bleeding because he had been hit with a stone. I'm really trying to share these teachings, but the people don't like me. And the Buddha, he tells him that what he's experiencing is the karma of his past behavior, and also that if it was up to the people who felt that injustice was perpetrated against them, he would not have had the opportunity to become a student of the Buddha, meaning that if the people got to him, they would have killed him. They were so upset. And so the Buddha was basically telling him that things unfold as they are, and that in a way, this is not a horrible thing that is happening to you for the actions that you have, that you've committed. And so later on, I was reading an interpretation of a teacher about this story, and the teacher says that our actions are like a salt block. And if we are not living in the consciousness of justice, our mind is like a small cup, meaning like the water itself is unpalatable. But if our behaviors, our past behaviors rather, if we're living with a steady mind and we're living in the consciousness of justice, it's like our mind is like a roaring river. So when you put that salt block in the river, the water is still clear. It's not polluted, it's not salty. And so connecting that to the story of Angulimala is that he had found truth, and he was also that river. And so his actions, his karma came to him, and so he was experiencing physical suffering, but it was not, as the Buddha was trying to make visible, as horrible as it could have been had he not become that river, if he was that cup. And so all of that is to say that if we commit injustice, there is a way forward for us to become the river. It does not mean that we will not live out the consequences of our behavior.
I love what you just said. I mean, I think that's such a fair and clear teaching because it makes clear as well, like someone, okay, so the question was, for those who commit injustice, do justice and mercy also extend to them? And you started off by saying yes, unequivocally yes. So someone hearing just that part of the response could say, well, then it doesn't matter. Like, I just might as well be lust, anger, greed, pride, jealousy, selfishness in motion. But the teaching makes it really clear, if I choose to be lust, anger, greed, pride, jealousy, selfishness, I'm going to experience the consequences of that. And grace is always available. Both of those things are extremely true. So yeah, I agree with that completely. I think if you want to bring in a couple of other teachers, this is what Jesus was saying when he was on the cross, and he said, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do." It's just awareness that humans act in ignorance. And so there will be responses that arise as a result of human ignorance and actions taken in human ignorance, and justice and mercy extend. And so that's an example of the one thief said to Jesus, you know, like, let me be with you. And Jesus says, of course, like, you can be with me, of course. This very day, you will be with me. And Ananda Mayama has some absolutely beautiful teachings about mercy. And she says, the ceaseless, never-ending current of divine mercy and compassion ever flows forth. In that current, one should bathe. Every moment belongs to God. Endeavor to keep your mind dedicated to his feet. God, the ocean of mercy, who ever blesses the world, pours out grace at all times. It is incumbent on humans to consider everything that happens to be for the best, denoting what is most helpful toward the realization of the divine. And so another way to put that is everything that unfolds in time and space is perfectly orchestrated to help with soul growth and learning and expansion. It doesn't always mean that it's what you would choose and would find comfortable on a human level. But if you're willing to look deeper and you're willing to say, I'm totally up for soul growth and learning and expansion, I'm totally open to how can this help me expand my heart and my understanding and my compassion and my awareness, no matter what it is that you experience in time and space, will always be an opportunity to open your heart and allow more light to flow through you, always. And so that's what she's talking about, that you can just always, everything that happens, anything that happens, allow it to deepen your devotion, allow it to open your heart, allow it to expand your understanding, allow it to help even more justice and even more mercy flow through you. And what happens then is, and this is true for all of us, like I want to say, this is not a far off, distant, aspirational thing. This is every day you all do this. When you open your heart and you allow the pink ray of healing love to share through you, that's what she's talking about. So grace is not far off. It's intimate, it's immediate, it's with us and within us always. It's present in our very own hearts. It's when I smile instead of saying a sharp word, if I have the opportunity to say a sharp word. It's when I am fully present in my relationships, in my work, when I am joyful and willing in being of service. That's grace. It's always here. And so what happens then is we just become conduits for grace. And so you're just asking the Divine Mother, you're asking the Divine, help me to open my heart and just allow grace to flow through my heart. You will find yourself weeping. And this is independent of anything that happens in time and space, because grace is bigger than the human body, it's bigger than the human heart, it's bigger than the human mind, and it's our true nature. So you're just sort of welcoming yourself home, and then living in that energy current of grace, and then you help welcome everyone else home. You help them energetically without saying a word. When you're in that current of grace, you help everyone remember That's my true nature. That's what's real, not any of this injustice, not any of this lust, anger, greed, pride, jealousy, selfishness, competitiveness, connectedness, and harmony, and unity, and oneness. That's what's real. That's my true nature. That's being at home. And so you're just welcoming yourself home all the time, and you're welcoming everyone else home all the time.
Amen.